It is time for This Week in Location-Based Marketing, episode number 110, The Prediction Show. It's recorded live December 29th, 2012. On today's show, the most impactful stories of 2012, our 6 predictions for 2013, and our choices for companies to watch in the coming year. And welcome to episode number 110 of This Week in Location-Based Marketing, The Predictions Show. We are recording this live. It is December 29th, so we're a little bit ahead of time, but you were watching this probably on New Year's Eve or sometime after the brand new entrance of 2013. My name is Rob Woodbridge from Untitled.tv, located in snowy Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And with me, as usual, for 110 consecutive episodes, Mr. Asif Khan. Asif, buddy. Well,
yeah, Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association. We finally got some snow in Toronto, so we're not quite up to where you are yet, Rob, but we're getting there, hopefully.
So the whole city shut down then, I'm going to assume?
Oh yeah, we brought in the army. Everybody's in. Yeah.
Torontonians, for those who don't know, are just a little bit fickle about the amount of snow that they get. They forget. A lot of them have migrated to Toronto from Ottawa, and they forget what snow was really like when in their youth. And we have been hit by, I would say, and this is no word of a lie, maybe 3.5 or 4 feet of snow in the last 10 days. It has been an incredible couple of weeks leading up to Christmas and for skiers. And it has been terrible for people who just have to shovel. Anyway.
We're nowhere near that. We've got maybe half a foot.
Half a foot. Yeah, it's nothing. It'll be gone by the weekend. It'll be gone by the weekend. So, Asif, this is our second show that we're doing, prediction show, and it's a you and I gabbing about the things that we saw in the past year that really surprised us. We're going to do a kind of a recap of the things that we saw that are predictions and see how we did on our predictions. We won't highlight the things we missed. We will highlight the things that we got right, of course. And we're gonna talk about our predictions for 2013, what we hope that happens in this industry, and then we're going to finish this off by kind of highlighting 2 companies, one by you, one by me, who we think will be influencers this coming year, even more so than what they were before. Now, these are companies that probably you've all heard of, I would say, but we'll give our reasons as to why these 2 companies are key pillars for 2013 in this location-based marketing industry. It's going to be a packed show. We don't have a guest. We don't have a resource. We don't have any news other than this is our supplementary episode about what's going on in the industry. We'll be back next week with our full-on news, what you've gotten used to over the last 109 episodes. But sounds like a good show to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, really excited to get going and kind of just recap and see where we scored well or where we didn't last year on our predictions, and hopefully a chance to kind of look towards the future as well.
All right. So what do we do here? Do we just jump right in? I think that we should talk about what happened in 2012 very quickly. What happened in 2012, and I would ask you. We talked about some of the companies that we thought were going to have influence in 2012, and we think that they did a bang up job. But I got to ask you, was there anything? First off, what was the most surprising piece of 2012 for you? What is there anything that stood out aside from the fact that you were probably on the road 110 days? I think is probably by my calculation out of a very shortened year. What was the most surprising moment for you this year? Anything that stuck out?
Well, I mean, just the continued overall ridiculous valuations on some of these companies. Like the Instagram thing, like the Groupon. I mean, these are just. I don't understand how we can get to valuations like that with the kinds of revenue that these companies are generating. It just didn't make any sense to me. I think we're going to see a massive correction around that kind of stuff. We're not going to see those valuations in 2013. It's just not going to happen. Because we see Groupon goes through that experience. They go public, the stock tanks. We see where Facebook stock is. We see it's just I think there's a much more of a reality check around that kind of stuff. it's just it's surprising to me it even gets to the kind of valuation that they think they can get.
Well,
Anyways,
yeah, I mean, valuations are, they're tough to come by, but we all know that $1 billion, or I guess the equivalent of $780 million for Instagram, is going to be a longer play. But it just seems a little bit ridiculous, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon as 2013 comes into play, because you said one of your predictions in 2012, this is going to be the year of consolidation, and M&A. Strategic M&A always costs more than an asset buy, and that's what Facebook looked at with the.
Well, I'm not against acquisitions and M&A activity and all of that. I think it's very good for the industry, for that to continue. I just I question whether something is worth 200 million or $1 billion.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, that's all.
Yeah, I think that sits up there very highly with me is one of the most surprising things, like the numbers that we're seeing and the veracity of the acquisitions. And I think we've talked about this in many shows throughout 2012, is that the thing that surprised me about 2012 was the sheer acceptance and willingness of the average consumer in 2012, and maybe a leading edge consumer, to jump onto a service with no regard about what the long-term prognosis of that service is, right? So, people, there was a whole lot of backlash around Instagram trying to turn their user base into revenue, which I think is insane. And I think that that's something that you got to scratch your head in an economy that doesn't think that a company like Instagram should actually be going out there and making money. But on the flip side is that we saw a lot of companies that their whole goal was to get bought. And that's the way that I felt of 2012, is that it was a gold rush for these companies. And I think it's a disingenuous. And it started with Kevin Rose and Milk, right? Where I was, that story really threw me off the deep end around the lack of respect some software companies have for their user base. 150,000 people. I don't care. That's a lot of people. It's bigger than a lot of small cities and towns in US and Canada. And they're using these products, and then without a simple regard for their data, for their use of the product, they go and sell the company. Probably a good decision to sell the company, but terrible decision for the users. And I think that backlash is going to come full swing in 2013. That angered. I don't know what it was about Milk, but that story to me stuck out. I was angry about that story, and I hope that we stop seeing these pure abuse of user base come 2013. But I don't think that we will. So, what was your best story? Is anything that you loved, that you just said, "Wow, God, I love this"?
Two. One that probably not a lot of people have heard of. We talked about it on one of the shows way back. I think in the first part of the year. Company called Senzari. It's a radio play. Did a sort of a mashup with Facebook Places, which was kind of interesting for me. So I really like those kinds of things where we cross media and connect media together. We talked just even on last week's show. We talked about Triton Digital and the radio thing there. So for me, I love the stories where we see non-traditional, media, or non-online, let's just say, or mobile, starting to mash up with other things. So, the Senzari, web radio in this case, hooking up with Facebook Places, as people check in, pushing recommendations to them of music based on where they are and what they're doing and things like that. I really like that kind of stuff. So that's one for me. And the second one, where obviously much bigger visibility around, is the relationships that started to emerge between Foursquare and Twitter, two separate relationships with American Express. That whole idea of sort of streamlining the redemption process around deals and couponing. Getting, sort of people and barcode scanning and all of that out of the way by simply, paying for something, associating your Twitter account or your Foursquare account with your Amex card, and then simply paying for whatever it is that you're buying with your Amex card and having the coupon or the discount come off, behind the scenes, so to speak, on your bill, and not having to show your phone and have it be scanned or do anything. I really like that. I think the simplicity of it was key, and I think we're going to see more of those kinds of things in the new year.
It certainly did pave the way, didn't it? Those kind of things, like I think what those kind of stories did for me in 2012 was just cement that relationship that to the between the money and the user. And I think that this is where we're going to start to see. This is why I think that carriers play such a huge part in all of this, and credit card companies, is that if they're the termination point and everybody has to go through them at some point, these kinds of stories are going to be commonplace, right? Where discounts and couponing and loyalty become dial tone on a credit card or on a carrier's bill, right? Like it's automatic. So a lot of the companies, and this is a lesson that I think we're going to learn in 2013, a lot of the companies that we're going to start to see, that's going to eliminate business models everywhere, and it's going to force a lot more innovation and a lot less Me Too that is happening in the industry right now. So yeah, those are huge stories, and that was early on in the year, and we haven't seen a lot more innovation around this since then. But the carriers and the credit card companies have woken up, and I think that's what it signified to me. It's big, 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 big. And that's why I think that companies like Square got in at the right time, where this is, the opportunity to establish themselves was presented to them because they were in there before the credit card companies and the carriers got involved. And it's a unique instance in time that allowed Square to do what it's doing right now. So what about the companies? We talked about two companies last year, and you mentioned one at the very end of the episode. If you haven't watched the episode, you can go back and see how we did. We're not going to rehash it all, but the company you chose was eBay, and the company that I chose to watch was Amazon. And then you made mention of this small little company. It was growing at the time. Everybody should watch out that company was Uber, and boy, what a year they had. They're getting up into Congress now about they've been kicked out of cities because they've been pushing unions around, cab unions around. But what a story! Mm-hmm. What a story! Tell me about what's your assessment on eBay's ability to implement?
I think I'll give myself a half check mark on eBay. I think they did start to pull together. The reason I picked eBay last year was, as I said, look, they in 2011 they went and kind of acquired a whole bunch of pieces of the sort of shopper optimization pie. With the Ware acquisition, they already had PayPal. They have all these pieces that they were starting to put together, Red Laser, etc. And but they hadn't assembled it yet. And then around I guess it was around May, June of this year, we started to see some announcements rolling out of eBay. They announced their Here piece, which was their Square competitor. You'd be able to have a hardware piece that you could plug into your device and scan or swipe cards through it. They did announce some couponing integration using the Ware platform, connected to PayPal. So that was a good sign. That's where I'll sort of give the half check mark. But we haven't seen the full on integration yet. Where Red Laser and the real-time inventory stuff all comes together in one sort of Uber shopping app. So I think there's still some steps to be taken, but I think they certainly made progress this year.
Well, it's my payment preference of choice, right? PayPal for me and eBay. I've fully bought into their ecosystem. Everything that I do is within the PayPal system, and I think that you're right. If they can. If 2012 was a half check, think about what 2013 means to them. It's kind of not a pivotal year for them, but this is now getting very, very, very competitive. Yeah,
and the PayPal piece is, they spent a lot of time on that this year and done some really great things with it. And I'm with you. I'm fully in. I use PayPal all the time, but the Milo pieces, it hasn't really been leveraged. Yeah. The Red Laser piece hasn't really been leveraged yet.
I wonder
in terms of putting those together. The Ware piece they've done with couponing. They've been tying that in nicely with PayPal. But some of the other components aren't quite there yet.
I just wonder, Asif, maybe we're not ready. We as consumers, the mass population of consumers, weren't ready for all of this to happen at one point, right? And I think that now maybe heading into 2013. I mean, eBay is always going to be a company that you should be watching. It's you know, we're not calling that out for this year, but it's going forward. eBay is a litmus test for you guys. You should be watching that as well. So yeah, I give you more than a half check mark. I mean, by the end of 2013, we'll have seen eBay's full potential, hopefully, and then you will look like an absolute freaking genius, right?
Always.
I think it's easy to predict 1 year out, but to predict 2 years out, man, that's going to blow people's minds. So on my vein, you know, I looked at Amazon as my company, and I still think, I mean, if I could pick Amazon again this year, I would, simply because I firmly believe in one of my predictions for 2013. I think Amazon is at the core of this prediction. So Amazon, I mean, they did everything right in my mind. I think the challenge that they've had around the tablet side, around the Kindle Fire, is simply is Apple. I mean, it's a formidable foe that everybody is realizing is not going to go away right away. The iPad is still the tablet of choice, and so they, you know, diverting their attention to a tablet, I think, is the right choice, and it's going to be a payment. It's going to pay off in a couple of years, I think, as well, simply because I think that's the window of the future for retail. But yeah, I would say that my assessment of how Amazon is done is a half check, but I still believe in my heart that this company is going to be the single most valuable company on the planet. And I think that that will happen within the next 18 months because of what's going to happen in 2013. I think that companies like Walmart will, you know, they're not going away. Target, these huge companies that Amazon is now in that space competing with, all of a sudden will feel the pressure that Amazon is pushing on them, and they will force them to innovate. And I think that that's very good for retail. It's very bad for margins. I think that this is one of the things that we're realizing, is that mobile and digital and location have done a great job of absolutely destroying margins. And I think that that's good for the consumer. Tough for the merchants. But you know, so I give myself a half grade. We'll see what happens in 2013. But Amazon is still, to me, one of the companies that you should be watching.
Yeah, and I'm not going to disagree with that at all. I mean, I think I'm with you. I think Amazon is going to, you know, if I was going to pick a second company for 2013, other than the one I'm going to pick, you know, I would definitely put it, you know, that would be it. You know, I think they're going to have a huge year. You know, I do think the Kindle Fire is going to start to get some traction, but you know, beyond, you know, I think there's huge opportunities for Amazon on payments.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's huge opportunities for them, you know, on local information and news, potentially, to get into that space. I think there's a lot of places where, you know, Amazon has the power to go, just given their reach. And, you know, it's going to be an interesting thing to watch. For sure.
Yeah, there's so much more. And so, you know, I think that passing grades for us, some of the other predictions were well, but I mean, the one on Uber to me really stuck out as I was re-listening to that show. The fact that Uber has had the year that it has. If you follow Chris Sacca on Twitter, you know that he's a huge supporter. And it just seems like every second or third tweet that was out there from my stream anyways was about Uber. So, you know, I can't wait. Maybe you'll pull one out at the end of this show. But Uber to me was by far, it was like an after mention. Oh, by the way, just at the end of the show, here, watch this company this year because it's going to be one for the record books, and it was. And I think it's about to disrupt unions, cab unions, I think. So I think, you know, that was one of the big stories for me of 2012, and that came from you as well. That's a recap of how things went last year. And, you know, there were so many stories. I was going through the episodes. Man, we covered, in 52 episodes is an incredible number of shows to cover. And we covered, you know, an insane number of companies. We spoke to some great people this year. And I can't wait to see next year and how these companies are doing. And we really appreciate that. But it's been an incredible year. But now it's time to say goodbye to 2012. Kick it in the ass. get it out of the door because 2013 is rolling around. If you're watching this, it is 2013 right now, and our predictions are probably true by now. So why don't we? Yeah, that's how good we are. Why don't we talk about this? Is that 2013? I find it so amusing that everybody thinks that everything restarts January 1st, where in fact business kind of shuts down for the first 2 weeks of January and January is a terrible month in business simply because we can't for some reason get past the 10 days we get off between Christmas and New Year's. But 2013 is a time for renew. We're going to look ahead and see, from a rose-colored glasses perspective, what's coming down the road in this industry.
Not a Kevin Rose.
No, not a Kevin Rose. That man, even if he wants to be on the show, I won't let him on the show. So tell us, what are your predictions? Let's start rolling through this.
Yeah, you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the first one for me is what I'm going to call the rise of the location-aware non-phone device. So much of what we've seen over the last couple of years has been focused on mobile devices, the phone, apps, all that kind of stuff, and we're going to see lots more of that in 2013 without doubt. But I think for me, for the first time, we're going to see, a great deal of effort and consumer attention, actually, as well, being drawn to, location awareness outside of the mobile phone itself. So things like Roximity that we talked about recently, where, they've got integration into in-car navigation systems, and they're pushing location-based deals directly into those nav systems, and working directly with the car manufacturers to do that. Google goggles type technology. We talked, I don't know, maybe a month ago or 2 months ago about Oakley putting out a pair of AR-based ski goggles. As you're going down the hill and being able to visualize things around you and your height and speed and distance and all that kind of stuff being pushed projected into the goggles based on where you are. We're going to see, bus shelters, get really smart, with technology and be able to understand who's walking by them, time of day, awareness of things, so smartness inside of buildings and units, and Wi-Fi hotspots and all that kind of stuff. So, it's not just going to be about the mobile device anymore. By itself, it's going to be about that mobile device in relation to some other geo-aware object.
We've started to see little bits and pieces of this, but yeah, I think 2012 was a testing bed for 2013. I love that. I love these predictions.
So that's number one. Number two, I'm going to call it the context-driven app. Simple way to put it. And I think there's two aspects to that. I think there's the one that we've started to see in 2012, which is, the Google Nows, the Passbooks, the Grokr that we just talked about last week. There's others in the Asian market, for example. You've got things like Wixen, in China, Nimbuzz over in India. There's quite a few of these kinds of things out there. And the premise of that, on the first hand, is the app being smart, the app being, pushing things to you in a predictive way based on, learning about your habits and behaviors and your desires and your wants and your location and time and all that kind of stuff. So, I think that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it for me, though, is the one that we haven't really seen yet. And I think that we'll start to see some of this in 2013 and probably more in 2014. But I think we'll see the beginnings of this in 2013. And that is, the way we get apps today. The way, we hear about an app, it's promoted, on TV or on social media or something. We hear about it. We download the thing from the App Store, we play with it, and then it sits on our device and collects us, for the next, 11 months until we say, oh, well, I'm not using that thing anymore, we delete it. I think that starts to go away in terms of how we consume apps. I think what will happen is as we get to my first prediction, where buildings and other things become more intelligent, then what'll happen is apps will be built the way that they are today, but they'll be delivered to us completely in context when it's relevant to us. So, for example, let's say there's an app for your local art gallery or museum or whatever. That's not an app that I need sitting on my device 24/7, 365 at all, right? I only really need it to enhance my experience while I'm going around the art gallery or the museum. And so, as I approach, the art gallery or museum, the building is intelligent. It's aware of what's happening around it. Using Wi-Fi and other technologies, and it senses that I'm coming into the building from my mobile device. It pushes me a notification that says, "Hey, Rob, welcome to the art gallery today. There's an app that can enhance your experience here. Would you like it?" Yes. And then it pushes it down to me. I use it to understand all the stuff I'm looking at in the art gallery as I'm walking around. It knows where I am in the building using indoor positioning, all that kind of stuff. And then when I leave the building, it pushes me another notification that says, "Hey, thanks for visiting us today. Would you like to join our family program or our loyalty program or whatever?" And you say yes, no, and then it says, "Would you like us to remove that app from your device now?" Yes, no, and you say yes, and it's taken away. So it's not sitting there, for the next year collecting dust on your phone, taking up real estate. It's completely contextual, relevant when it's relevant, time of day, all that kind of stuff. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that start to emerge in terms of how apps are pushed and consumed and used.
I think that I for one can't wait for that day, right? Because if you look at it, I've tried since I've gone to the iPhone 5, I've tried to limit the number of apps that I actually have on this device, because what's the point of having 400 apps on this device that are out of context? So the faster that context can come, I think is the best part. And I think that it is that is going to make these apps valuable. There are certain ones that are going to be on your phone the whole time. Like there's no doubt. Like the social networks, they come and they go, but there's always going to be a Twitter app on your phone. There's always going to be a Facebook app on your phone. There's always going to be an email client on your phone and a text messaging client. Done. Now it's about how do you bring your business onto my phone at the time that I need it the most. So when I walk into a mall, as you said, give me the mall app, right? But if I'm not thinking about it, I don't need it until I do. And I don't want to have to hunt for it. So I love that. I can't wait till these buildings are a little bit smarter. And this whole concept of gaming the app stores goes away, and the value really comes out when it comes to
I think there's huge potential in that, and I think somebody's the real estate companies, the guys who own all these properties are going to start to play a bigger role around this kind of stuff in terms of just technologically empowering their buildings to be able to do some of these kinds of things. So one of the things we talked about last year is there was a report that came out that we covered as a resource somewhere along the way. I don't remember what episode, but indoor positioning being the next billion-dollar market, and I think that's just the start for me. It's not it's indoor positioning, but it's also the building being aware of who's coming into it, as who's outside of it and what's going on around it, and in relation to the building across the street and all that kind of stuff. So. I think we're going to see some of that start to happen in 2013.
Yeah, and I'd love to see some of those companies. If not, maybe Asif, you and I should just go ahead and start one of those companies.
Yeah.
Like we should take our own advice here.
All right, and then the third prediction, is really a rehash of one from last year for me. Because I'm never going to go off this thing, which is data. It's all about data. Data is absolutely the new oil right now. We talked about a couple of companies recently, but I'll sum it up in three quick ways why I think data is going to be such a big thing in 2013. The first is, I think some of the new players that emerged over the last 2 years, companies like Factual, Locationary, guys who are playing a big role around sort of empowering other businesses with location data, are going to have huge years in 2013. I mean, these guys, guys like Factual in particular, for me, are going to have a huge year in 2013, without doubt. They just have great data. Locate, people like that, Skyhook, all these guys, that are, been collecting data of various types around location are gonna start to reap the benefits of that. And to your point that you always bring up, Rob, is, where's the money? Where's the revenue in these companies? These are companies who are making money, who are licensing data. And are going to have huge years in 2013. So that's the one aspect of data. The second is, one that I talked about a little bit last year, and that is, consumers being aware of their data being valuable, and starting, the emergence of new business models. I talked about personal and singly last year, but even, here's one we haven't talked about on the show at all. Look at a company like Karma. I don't know if you've heard of Karma, Rob, but here what you have now is, business models emerging around taking things like, if you go and get a personal Wi-Fi hotspot, mobile hotspot, okay, and you turn the thing on, and now you can share that with other people around you, okay, and when other people connect to your mobile hotspot, you get money for that, or you get, additional gigabytes of time for free just for sharing your Wi-Fi hotspot with other people. That is a form of data sharing. That's a form of monetization of data in different ways that, we haven't seen yet, purely based on where you are, who's around you. It is all location in that context. So I think we're going to see lots of interesting things like that emerge in 2013. And the third one, this is all around data, is the Clear Story kind of stuff that we talked about. I love this company, Clear Story. It's one of my companies to watch for 2013. And there's others like Platfora, Data Hero. What's the other one I'm thinking of? Chartio is another one. So there's a bunch of these companies out there that are all about understanding and building sort of structural models around storage of data, access to data. And for me, the way I look at data now is changed a lot in the last 24 months, for sure. It was, sort of the old world of Oracle, Sybase, databases, from, you and I in the 90s and all the companies we worked with, in the early 2000s. And how data was structured, and then we saw this shift in the last couple of years to cloud, and all the data sort of being stored in the cloud, and that's kind of where we are right now. But it's gonna shift again to not the cloud as we understand it today, but the data really being stored at the user, consumer, mobile device level, and so. I love this term where, the way we call data, the way we access data is not going to be, simply making a call to a database and retrieving information as we've done in the past. It's going to be a call to, the people around us that have the information that we need in context, when we need it. So it becomes about interrogating the world, not interrogating a database, a specific database. And so that for me is a huge shift around the way data looks in 2013.
Jeez, Asif, remind me to go first next time.
What's that?
Remind me to go first next year, because mine are going to seem pedantic compared to what you've just put out there. I think that mobile's cool. It's going to get cooler in 2013. Thank you. I can't echo that enough. I think that the move to data and creating value around that data is not just about reporting. It's exactly as you said. It's contextualizing that. And I think that the media has got to play into this a little bit more. And I don't mean hype it up anymore. I think start using these techniques more. I think that when it comes to understanding who your audience is and putting context around it, like I think paywalls are interesting, but gamify the paywalls and leverage location and it'll change your business the way that you're talking about doing it. And I think that 2013 is going to be one of these years, and I think that it's going to go beyond that. But we're going to see a lot of these companies, and I think that we should be watching these deep dive data analytics companies that you've talked about as just part of our routine understand what they're doing with data, and understand how you can use it in your business. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So mind's blown. Mind's blown because of those. Now, I don't think that my predictions will compare to that, but I'm going to give it a try, okay?
I completely disagree.
All right, well, I'm taking it from a holistic. I'm a mobile guy. I love this industry. I breathe this industry. I love it so much that I get angry when I hear people disparaging its ability to change business, and the fact that we've leveled playing fields, and small businesses that today we look at as micro businesses are going to be huge businesses with massive impact, and the big companies that we've talked about in the past are going to be destroyed as a result of not embracing this. And we're starting to see the cracks, right? The fissures in some of these companies in their mobile strategies. And I think that part of this is around how the living room is going to be shaped in 2013 and beyond. And we've started to see this battle. It's an insane battle that guys like Microsoft are playing in, the guys like Hulu. We've certainly got Netflix in there. We've got Nintendo in there. We've got we're about to get Apple in there. And I think that this, and now we've got these devices that compete for our attention in there, and everybody's talking this second screen. And on my personal belief is that I think that media companies around the world are going to wake up one day and realize what they've done. The same things that the newspapers industry did about 10 years ago, when they put all their content for free up online, and they realized that 10 years later that wasn't such a great idea. And they're trying to backtrack from that. I think this whole idea of ABC and NBC and CBS and Fox and CTV here in Canada offering a second screen solution that takes away from a live event that they have a captive audience for right now is going to hurt them, and they just don't know how much it's going to hurt them. But in the interim, these second screen mechanisms are now all of a sudden everywhere. Everybody's trying to get into this world, and I think that the battle for the living room is what we're going to start to see shape in 2013, even more so. And instead of thinking about it as like a TV, a second screen, like a second screen for TV, these devices, I think that we're going to put these into like a contextualized, location-based media second screen. So whether you're driving the car and it's your radio and getting deeper context on an ad or a song, we're starting to see those kind of things, or complementary content that is fed through the device based on your location, based on the data that the radio stations have, that the television networks have. I think that that's going to be huge. And I think that we're going to start to see this, the monetization of the tablet in the living room. You can't give away this stuff for free anymore. I'm not talking about episodic information. I'm talking about like the death of the DVD. If you want your second ending or an alternative ending or the bloopers, it's going to cost you 99 cents on your tablet. And I'd love to see more of this kind of monetization. Instead of spending $60 on a box set, you're going to get the content for free, extras for a cost in your living room based on who you are, where you are, and how much money you've spent there. And I think that this opens up a huge opportunity because of the living room as context for advertisers, local, hyper-local advertising, stuff that we've never seen before, that we think works but hasn't really been tested on a grand level. I think that carriers and payment processors are going to, and carriers, credit card companies, and Apple are going to have a huge banner year as a result of payments, as a result of owning that living room, because it's basically we're turning on 24/7 impulse buys based on the content that you're consuming on the television and the radio. I think this is going to be big. So media as the second screen, or the media second screen, I think is what I'm looking at here for this, if I could summarize that down, with a huge local media focus. I can't tell you how big this opportunity is. It's not going to land all in 2013, but we're going to start to see this. We're going to start to see some early winners on that. That's a big first prediction.
Yeah, completely agree with that one. Obviously it's at the heart of the reason for being of the LBMA. About integrated media, multi-screen engagement. And the screen, as you described, it's not only a television and a tablet. It's wherever you are, anytime. By factoring that data. So I'm all for it. In fact, one of the things for 2013 in support of your prediction is the LBMA is going to be doing a bunch of events that are looking specifically at that integration of screen and connecting, and the leveraging of location data. So
it's going to be like a big year for this kind of stuff. There's speculation that Apple's going to be releasing some kind of television. And to your prediction about just dumb screens, is that I think that there's going to be an active movement towards simplicity of these screens. It's just going to be glass that we're looking at and powered by some kind of device.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see how this plays out. Boy, I can't wait. All right, my second prediction, if you can call it that, is I think that, finally, there's all these analysts that have talked about how big the mobile advertising industry is. And this is one of those things that drives me crazy, because we're talking about fictitious numbers here. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars in mobile advertising. But they're not measurable right now. You can measure click-throughs and all those kind of things that we are. But I think that we're going to move from the fat finger friendly CPM model into a location-based measured metrics, like when I put something in this app or on this website, or through my ears, through a digital radio, how many walk-ins did I get from that ad? How can I measure the number of walk-ins? How many bookings did I get, or reservations? How many people bought on the spot? And I think that that's going to be the going forward. Is that if it costs me $1,000 in advertising to get $100 in revenue, that doesn't work anymore. And I think that that's what we're seeing in this industry. We might get click-through rates, but it's the wrong measurement. These are inherently buy devices, right? These are action devices. These aren't research devices. We know the desktop is the research. These are action devices. So we need to create something that causes an action from these. And I think that we're going to finally shift from that stupid CPM model that is just we can't bring that from the web. We have to stop it somehow, and it's going to be an abrupt pain. And I think that we're mature enough now in 2013 to do that, to move to a new measured or location-based measured metric for this kind of mobile advertising. Man, I hope so. I just hope so, because I would pay, and everybody would pay, $1 to get $1.25 in business. Like that's what these devices can do, right? So I hope that happens. That's my prediction for 2013.
I agree. It's going to be super painful. However, I think the media buyers and
they don't get it. They don't get it.
Agency folks live and breathe CPM and CPC and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they just it's going to be an extremely painful experience for them, and even just figuring out what those new metrics are, how to track them, dashboards, companies that have to be created around that. A lot of work to be done, but yes,
big opportunity,
absolutely necessary.
Big opportunity, and I think that's. I can't wait to see that happening, because boy, oh boy, I love this industry, and I think that CPMs spoil this industry. So. Especially when it comes to location. Location is, it's the backbone of what we're obviously about how would I describe it? It's the backbone of revenue for a lot of these companies, and I think that from this standpoint, it has to happen. So, all right, my third one. This is maybe not a stretch, but it is my prediction that this happens in 2013. Has a huge relevance to location, and that is, I believe wholeheartedly that somebody, aka Amazon, is going to crack the same-day delivery riddle. I think that this is, maybe not in Canada, but certainly in the United States. And I think that this is one of those things that is unreachable. We had in the .com days, we had grocery.com, who would do same-day delivery of your groceries. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars and installed fridges inside of your garage or outside of your garage, and they delivered groceries, and it was the cost to do it was just too prohibitive. But I do believe that companies like Amazon, maybe even Walmart, will perfect the same-day delivery. And I think that there's a location context to this that is unbelievable, especially for impulse buys. And you're sitting in front of your television, you're sitting at the office, you realize that you need groceries. And we've seen this inside of airports already. Remember we covered that story?
Yep.
And I think it was Heathrow, or it was LAX.
Gatwick. Gatwick.
Yeah, and they had, basically you could order your groceries that you need when you get home, milk and bread, and just limited amounts, and they would be at your house by the time you got home from the airport. And I think that those kind of services will expand. Same-day delivery, man, I think that this changes the retail game. It changes the grocery game. It changes every game. And I think that that example from Gatwick Airport is just a beginning. And I think we'll see many more of that in 2013. I think it's the panacea of e-commerce, and I think that will be enabled by these devices and location. Can't wait.
Yeah, I think you're right again. And I think if that's just a quick little plug on to support that. the Street Fight Summit, which is coming up, the one that got rescheduled because of the Sandy storm. It's happening January 15th, 16th, and I'm actually moderating a panel discussion exactly on that subject of local delivery or hyper-local logistic services on the 15th. So, companies like Seamless, Postmates, Delivery.com, Zarly, all those guys play a role in that space. And especially Postmates and Seamless in particular, right? Those are the guys that you need to be looking at, if you're thinking same-day delivery.
Yeah, I even look at guys like TaskRabbit as enablers for this, right? And I think that there's an ecosystem already out there that of willing people that are going to be able, like Zarly, who are going to be able to go out and leverage. And I think that there's going to be some acquisitions in that space to be able to enable Amazon, local delivery or same day delivery. I think that's going to be really interesting to see how they play and how Amazon gets into this or Walmart gets into this. And I can't wait. I think it's going to be very cool. That's it. Those are our 6 predictions. Yeah, I'm sure you have some comments on this. Boy, I'm hoping you do. Certainly, if we don't, then we haven't pushed the envelope enough, or you already know all of this, or they're so far fetched that they aren't going to happen. So please reach out. You know how to find us, Rob at Untethered.tv or Asif at thelbma.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, and please leave them below wherever you find this. There's a bunch of comments. You can do it if you're on Untethered.tv. Just leave your comments there, and we will share them on the next episode. It'd be really interesting to see that. Big 6. All right, let's finish this off. Let's finish the year off in style. We got 2 companies here that we think you guys out there that we're going to be watching with close, bated breath as to what they do in this industry and how what they do is going to influence how you use these tools, how you pay, what you pay, and how you're marketed to. So, Asif, I'll let you go first again.
You sure?
Yeah, I think your company. Is the Uber company for 2013. It's going to be an interesting year for them.
Yeah. Well, for me, and I sort of alluded to this the other day on the last show, but for me, the company for 2013 to watch is going to be Apple. And for a lot of reasons, but I'll start with the big one for me is I think it's been a year of sort of settling in for Apple, new leadership. And I think 2013 is really going to be the year where, Cook has to step up and basically say, I'm in charge. This is where we're going. This is the direction. This is the new Apple. And I think it starts with, the billions of dollars sitting in the bank in cash that they have not used, to go out and really buy anything, of note. They're the only company really of that size that's really sat there with on a pile of cash and not been doing acquisitions.
Not big acquisitions.
I think 2013 is really the year where we're going to see Apple start to spend money and buy companies and start to bring stuff in house. And I think for me, one of the companies on the radar for sure is at this point in time is Foursquare. They started to play around with, and we just talked about this on the last, couple of episodes, the integration of Foursquare data connected to, Apple's own mapping service. But I think that's just sort of the start of a much bigger relationship, potentially investment leading to full-on acquisition. And if it's not Foursquare, it's something else like Yelp, who just bought Kite a little while ago. It's going to be one of those, or maybe both of those guys, kind of rolled into an Apple. I think other companies that they're really interested in right now would be companies like Coupons.com. That's been a big player in that space for a while. Could add a lot of value into Passbook. Location Labs and Placecast are another 2 that I put on the radar because I think from a Apple has to also think about now as they're fighting for market share in an increasing ever growing way. The carriers still play a big role, and I think if you can own technology that empowers the carrier as well, such as a Placecast type of system. Or Location Labs kind of stuff, then it puts you in an even stronger position to fight for that market share that you want. And so I think Apple's going to spend a lot of money in 2013. They're definitely a company to watch. The other two reasons that I put Apple out there, other than going out and spending money, is we talked about PayPal. I talked about PayPal last year and the power of that, as one of the reasons for eBay. iTunes is going to, it's a massive payment vehicle in its own right. And a lot of people complain about the lack of NFC in the iPhone. They don't need NFC, right? They've got iTunes. They got millions and millions of people who are already paying for stuff through Apple using iTunes. They have millions and millions of credit cards connected to that. People trust the system to do those transactions, when you're buying music or, TV shows or whatever it is you're buying. So, I think there's a lot more that Apple's going to turn on via the Passbook, functions, in 2013 that, start to enable lots of other transactions, lots of other commerce, to happen, that they're going to participate and take a piece of that along the way, that has nothing to do with buying music or movies or TV shows. But actual transactions around clothing and other merchandise and other things that they're going to empower. And I think the third piece of the Apple stool for me is, one of the patents that they hold that nobody really talks about is, their NFC alternative technology, which is, where everybody's talking about near field, they're talking about magnetic fields. They're talking about, every smartphone has a compass in it. It generates a magnetic field. We can use that information to figure out proximity to other devices, and we can transfer data using magnetic fields. So why do we need this NFC stuff? We have our own over here, and we have a patent on it. And only they know where that's going to go, but it's Apple, and they're going to do something phenomenal with it. So by the time we see the iPhone 7, whenever that is, that's going to be a key component of where they are, and it's going to be a major differentiator against the other device manufacturers in the space, for me, anyways. And so I'm all about Apple. Have been for a long time now, but for me, 2013 is going to be a huge year. It's going to be the year that Cook puts his stamp on the company.
Couldn't agree with you more. And when you bring in the prospect of them, to my prediction, just bring in the prospect of them owning the living room or whatever their TV device is, it just adds to that. And we've always felt this way. We've had many conversations about their unwillingness to bring NFC in. Why would they establish a market? Why would they take people out of their kingdom by enabling other transaction opportunities on the device? And I can't tell you. I think that Passbook is their future, is their gateway, and I think that this is going to be a very interesting year for them. There's so many people that are crapping on them right now because of results that are stellar. We'll see how this is. It's a competitive landscape, but they've never, ever wanted to own the majority. They wanted of devices or operating system installs. What they wanted to own, which I love, is the majority of money going through these devices. And they do that. So Apple, Asif's company to watch. I think that you should. All right, I had a hard time deciding. I was thinking, I had two, and I went with one. And that is Square. I think that this is an interesting year for this company in transition. My other one was Starbucks, and they're so closely related. But I always thought that Starbucks was this company that, boy, are they ever on the forefront, the bleeding edge of integrating technology into their business? And so watch Starbucks, but Square for me really, really, really owned it. And I think it's a simple reason. Not because of their transactions, not because of the billions of dollars that go through it. I think it's a very thin margin business that is going to be a very competitive business based on carriers and credit card companies, established people that are already accepting payments, PayPal. You're playing in a big, big, big business, and they've only had, $300 million invested in them?
That's it.
And you're competing against companies that have had billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars and have a worldwide infrastructure of payments and fraud detection on it. So it's an uphill battle when it comes to that. But what I love about Square is what I'm hoping happens to them in 2013 is they emerge as the solo-mo small business hero. And what I mean by that is just enabling these small businesses and helping these small businesses, localized, very local small businesses, market themselves in their directories. And I think that this is a huge opportunity for Square to really own that, the unbanked, so to speak, small business that don't accept credit card companies, don't accept credit cards because they can't do it, that have a challenge in onboarding their business in a marketing standpoint in mobile. And I think that these guys can really, really, really enable it. And I think there's a huge caveat here. And I think it has a lot to do with Starbucks. They can do this if they don't start listening or get caught up in their own hype and their own press. And I think that we're starting to see that, is that they're leaving the small business very quickly by signing deals with Starbucks. And I think that from a profile standpoint is great, and it's going to enable some serious transactions, but their margins are thin and they're giving it away. And I think that those kind of deals can hinder Square's growth. Isn't that funny? And I think that there's a huge opportunity. Let the RIM lesson be a lesson here. The business model is that RIM owned the enterprise, and they were a very profitable company. They went into consumers and got hammered. And look what happened when they went after consumers. This company has been devastated because of that decision. And I think that Square has an opportunity to own small business, own the solo mo, help these small businesses market the crap out of themselves who can't get on board with mobile right now, or mobile marketing. And if they focus on that 90% of small businesses that aren't enabled, I think that there's a huge upswing to these guys. And maybe it's limiting. I have a limited vision of Square, but I worry that they won't be able to compete in this space.
No, I think you're bang on. I think that there's that small business market is just ripe for for acquisition right now. There's a lot of these guys that are looking for alternative payment solutions. I talk to lots of these guys on a regular basis. So I like your pick. I think Square it's gonna be an interesting year for Square. Yeah. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And one of the things for me around Square is is the underexplored relationship between Square and Twitter. Obviously, you have common ownership there going on with Jack Dorsey founding both companies. I think as Twitter starts to go more local, and do more sort of, explore its own revenue models, around local, and small business in particular. There's a potential relationship between small businesses, having hyper local Twitter activity and accounts and advertising going on, on the Twitter framework, and a commerce transaction, being enabled by a Square.
Right.
I'd like to see that explored a little bit.
Imagine those two companies coming together, one buying the other. Ultimately, I think is what it would be. Like, Twitter is an enabler of commerce. It's just waiting to be enabled. Yeah. And I think that this stuff that's going on right now, this battle for filter garbage, is all about user acquisition and keeping users in. This is not the bigger battle that all these guys should be fighting. It isn't about filters and photos. It's about enabling commerce. But there's stepping stones to this, and that's what people have got to understand, is that photos right now are the stepping stone to users, which are the stepping stone to enabling commerce. And maybe Square is that enablement piece for Twitter, or Twitter is that enablement piece for Square. I don't know, but it's going to be. I'd love to see how that matches up. And there's no reason why they couldn't do it, other than maybe some competitive issues. Cool. So those are that. So the companies to watch: Apple and Square, with a little side of Starbucks, a little shot of Starbucks, a little Starbucks latte on the side. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Everyone out there, we have had such a great year doing this. It's been a blast. We are not pros, which is pretty obvious. We've become much better and much more comfortable doing this, but there's so much room to grow. And we can't wait to bring you another 52 episodes in 2013. But before we wrap up for the year, I want to draw attention to one thing, Asif. You and I both participated in this. This is a book. A book. Remember this?
A book?
This is called The Everything Guide to Mobile Apps, and it is coming out sometime in January. If I wish I knew. You can get it on Amazon. You can do a search on Amazon. And Asif and I wrote chapters in this book. If you can believe it, we wrote chapters in this book. So take a look at The Everything Guide on Amazon.com or any of your favorite retailers. It's The Everything Guide to Mobile Apps, and it's coming out before I think before the beginning of February, so it's sometime in January, and we'll keep pushing this. But please go and take a look at it. And I think there are 22 chapters, all by different people in the mobile industry and the location and the marketing industry. Can't wait for you guys to read it. Can't wait to see it. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, it was fun to participate in, and from what I've been able to gather so far, and some of the other folks that participated, I think it's well worth the the money that it's going to be out there, and I would definitely take a look at it. It's Peggy Ann Salts and Crew.
Yes, we love Peggy, and it's $9.72. I think you guys can afford that. We don't get any royalties, but if you want to flip us a buck, that'd be fine. Buy us a coffee the next time you see us. So that wraps up episode number 110, our prediction show. Asif, I think that this has been a stellar year for the industry, for this podcast. The growth, the numbers we were looking at just before we went live are really impressive. And we owe it all to the fine folks out there who are listening and who are watching this and who come back every week, every 2 weeks, every month. It doesn't matter how often you come back, just as long as you take a little bit of this with you. And we're at least giving you a little bit of insight into this industry. And we're learning as we go, which is the greatest thing of all. We're discovering these companies. And I would hope that you guys have taken some of these lessons out there and used it for good for your business, shifted your business. And we've had great emails from people who said, hey, listen, I learned how to speak English from listening to your podcast. Maybe not the main focus. To people who have said, listen, I've started businesses as a result of your podcast, and I've stayed abreast of what's going on for my company as a result of your podcast. So to you guys out there, I thank you, and I wish you all the best in the coming 2013. And please reach out, man. We would love to hear more from you. Successes, failures, fundings. This is your way of reaching our audience, which is growing.
Yeah, absolutely love doing this show. We really, really appreciate the feedback. And for whatever reason, if you haven't joined the Location-Based Marketing Association yet,
why not?
Just do it. 2013 is your year. Make it happen. We'd love to have you on board. There's big things coming in 2013 for the LBMA as well, just in terms of more new chapters, expansion, events, all kinds of white papers and stuff in the hopper. Lots of more FaceTime with Rob. Who wouldn't want that? It's gonna be great. So really looking forward to it. Really appreciate everybody's support out there. 52 more episodes on the way.
All right, everybody. So, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2013. Asif, enjoy, buddy. Can't wait to see you next week.
Cheers.
All right.
Take
see
care,
everybody.